When I left the radio on last Friday, we saw how King Baladan, he's the king of Babylon. He is the son of Baladan, the king of Babylon. Now, the Babylonians had been at odds with the people of Israel historically. There might not have been any difficulty now, but historically Babylon has always been in an adversarial position and in an adversarial footing or setting against the nation of Israel. Well, King Baladan heard that Hezekiah had been sick, and he did what we still practice today. He sent letters and a present unto him. Many times we have people that get sick and we send a get well card, or we find out that somebody has died, we send a sympathy card. And many times when people get sick or ill, we will send a gift to them. We'll send a monetary offering to them, and we will hope that they can use the money to buy medicine or pay on their doctor bill or pay on their hospital bill, or perhaps use the money to have a meal when they get to feeling better. We send the money to them just to let them know, hey, we're thinking about you. We're praying for you. We hope that you soon recover. And Hezekiah hearkened unto them. Now, I'm curious about what was said in those letters that would cause the man Hezekiah to hearken unto them. And Hezekiah hearkened unto them and showed them all the house of his precious things, the silver and the gold and the spices, and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasuries. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed them not. Now, when I left the radio Friday, I left off at this particular point. I think that Hezekiah makes a terrible, terrible mistake at this point. When I began dealing with the man Hezekiah some weeks ago now, I did point out that there were some foolish things that Hezekiah did, and some foolish things that the man Hezekiah allowed and tolerated. And among these foolish things that the man Hezekiah is involved in my estimation, in my opinion, was this revelation of all the precious things that belonged to the house of God and the precious things that belonged to the two southern tribes of Judah. In fact, I'm not alone in my criticism of Hezekiah concerning this, because Isaiah the prophet rebuked Hezekiah for doing this. Now, I recognize human nature, and I think that all of us make mistakes along the way. Somebody says, follow your heart. Follow your heart. Well, the book of Jeremiah says the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked, and who can know it? My heart is the most wicked, the most desperately wicked part of who I am and what I am is my heart. Nowhere does the Bible tell me to follow my heart. The Bible tells me to follow Christ. I am to walk in the light as He is in the light. I'm not to follow my heart. And all of us make mistakes from time to time concerning the matter of our heart. We have the idea that in order for me to be entirely honest with people, that I need to tell them everything about me. And people are doing a fine job of that on Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and all of these other social media outlets. People are doing a very fine job of revealing everything and telling everything there is to be told and everything there is to know about them. There are some things that simply are not anybody's business, and it's foolish for you to tell things that other people really have no business knowing. It's none of their concern. It's not any of their concern that they would know some things. I think sometimes people like to make a revelation like Hezekiah did as a method of boasting. to let people know what they have, to let people know how much they have, to let people know what kind of bank account they have, to let people know what kind of house they live in, to sometimes it becomes a method or a means of self-aggrandizement and self-promotion to brag about, look what I have. And you begin to show off. You begin to show off your money. You begin to show off your accumulation of things. And the problem with that, or the downside of that, is thieves will break through and steal. People will show up to take what is yours. They'll say, well, he has more than he needs, or she has more than she needs, and I'll go relieve them of their overabundance, and they'll have enough, and then I'll have something for myself. Thieves break through and steal. Everybody doesn't need to know all of your business, and everyone doesn't need to know all of my business. Everyone doesn't need to know all of your local church's business. I recognize that we need to have financial statements and business meetings, and I understand that. And the congregation that's tithing into your church, they ought to know how much money's in the general fund. They should know how much money is in the bank, how much money's being spent, and what the mission budget is, why they're contributing into the church, that they have a right to know that. But I don't think I'd get on the radio or on Facebook or on other social media and begin promoting and talking about how much money your church has in the bank or things of that nature. Somebody's subject to conjure up a lawsuit and say, well, they've got $5 million in the bank, and I'd like to have $1 million of that, so I'll sue them for this, that, or the other. And generally, people will settle those kind of lawsuits just to make them go away. First thing you know, you've paid out $150,000 or $200,000 just to make them go away. And they may have never shown up, except there was a lot of talk and a lot of boasting and bragging about how much we have in the general fund and what we've done. There are some things that are nobody's business. And for you and me to withhold some of the private details and private areas of our lives, to be prudent with what we allow others to know, is not being dishonest at all. Someone would immediately say, well, Brother Ben, if you have nothing to hide, then you should let everyone know what's going on. You should let everyone know what you have and what you don't have and where you've been and where you're going. If you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to hide, and you shouldn't back away from that. Well, I'm positive with all of these good things that Hezekiah had here, that there was nothing here that Hezekiah would have been ashamed of, but he had no business letting Berodach Baladan and the other Babylonians into the Lord's house and into the temple to see all of the divine things and the holy things and the good and godly things that God had given to the people of Israel. It truly was none of their business. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah and said unto him, what said these men? You hearkened unto them, they wrote a letter to you, you responded to them, you hearkened unto them. What did they say? What said these men, and from whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, they are come from a far country, even from Babylon. They've come from a far country. They came from Babylon. And he said, what have they seen in thine house? Now Isaiah says, who are they? He said, they're Babylonians. They came from Babylon. They've come here. They've come from a long way away. And the next question, because Isaiah knew they'd been in the temple, the next question was, well, what have they seen? And Hezekiah answered, all the things that are in mine house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them. I showed them everything. I hid nothing from them. Well, now, these Babylonians really had no business going into the temple. these men, unless they're going to become Jewish proselytes to Judaism, these men worship heathen and pagan gods. So they really have no responsibility, no right, they have no reason to go into the Lord's temple to see all of these things that have been sanctified and set apart for the worship of Almighty God. Not only had they gone into the temple, but Hezekiah said, all the things that are in mine house have they seen. They've seen everything in the Lord's house. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them. And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day, shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. Not only are they going to loot the temple, but your sons that issue from thee, verse number 18, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. What a terrible thing. By turning these sons into eunuchs, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were turned into eunuchs. And by turning these men into eunuchs, they will not be able to reproduce themselves. They will not be able to produce offspring. They'll have no progeny. There'll be no children produced by these eunuchs. What a terrible thing. That will reduce the number of Jewish children being born. It will cut off some of these families, will not perpetuate themselves. My grandfather, Andy Carper in West Virginia, perpetuated himself in my dad, Larry Carper. My dad, Larry Carper, perpetuated himself in me. I perpetuated myself in my son, Logan Carper. And right down the line. But if my dad had not reproduced, I would not be here. Therefore, my son would not be here. Therefore, his children, my grandchildren, would not be here, and right on down the line. So there is going to be a loss materially because of this foolish action. And there will be a loss concerning the families because of this foolish action. Now my time has gotten away from me. I'll be back, the Lord willing, on the broadcast tomorrow. I hope you'll hear the Bright Spot Hour at that time.
Bright Spot Hour at Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 296.